Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand something today. Destiny is not a group project. Purpose is personal. And when God selects a man or a woman for a divine assignment, separation is not an accident. It is a necessity. When you are chosen, you don't fit in. You don't move with the crowd because the weight of your calling will not allow you to walk like everybody else. The chosen are often isolated, not because they are rejected, but because they are being refined. When God has his hand on you, he will cut you away from distractions, remove unnecessary relationships, and keep you in a place where you can hear his voice clearly. Look at the great men and women of destiny. Moses was alone in the wilderness. Joseph was thrown into a pit and later into prison. Paul spent years in isolation before his ministry began. And even Jesus himself went into the wilderness before he started his assignment. Separation is God's strategy for preparation. Look at the pattern throughout history. Every man or woman chosen for greatness had to go through a season of isolation. It is not punishment, it is preparation. Before a tree can bear fruit, it must first be planted in the soil, hidden beneath the surface, where no one sees it. Before gold can shine, it must pass through the fire, removed from impurities. The same principle applies to you. Many people struggle with this reality because we live in a world where connection is celebrated, where relationships define identity, where people believe they must always be surrounded by company to feel complete. But hear me today, when you are chosen, your journey is different, your process is different, your preparation is different. And that means there will be times when God will pull you away from the familiar, from comfort, and even from romantic connections that do not align with your destiny. Some of you are wondering why your relationships are not working. You pray, you try, you invest your heart, but still things fall apart. The reason is simple. When you carry a great calling, not everyone can walk with you. Some people are not assigned to your life. Some connections, though they may feel good, are not part of God's plan for your future. And if you are not careful, you will force what was never meant to be, and in doing so, delay what was destined to be. Look at the life of Joseph. He had a dream, a vision of greatness, but before he could walk in it, he was separated from his family, sold into slavery, and even thrown into prison. What was happening? God was removing him from the environment that could not nurture his purpose. He was setting him apart for something greater. If Joseph had stayed where he was, surrounded by the people he was familiar with, he would have never reached the palace. His destiny required separation. Some of you today are going through a similar process. You feel alone, you feel misunderstood, you feel like no one truly connects with you on the level you desire. But let me tell you something, your isolation is not an accident. It is a divine strategy. God is keeping you from what will hinder you so that he can align you with what will fulfill you. He is cutting off what is unnecessary so that he can bring what is essential. You see, when God is about to do something new in your life, he does not start with additions. He starts with subtractions. Before he gave Adam a wife, he put him to sleep. Before Jesus stepped into his assignment, he went into the wilderness alone. Before Paul became the great apostle, he spent years in solitude, being prepared. What is the lesson? Separation is the seed for elevation. When God pulls you aside, it is because he is setting you up for something greater. The problem is, too many people fight their isolation. They want to be connected to everyone. They want to have a partner at all costs. They want to be seen, validated, and accepted by others. But let me ask you, what is the use of connection if it pulls you away from your destiny? What is the point of a relationship if it is leading you in the wrong direction? Some people are crying over who left them, but they should be thanking God because what left was never meant to stay. You see, the right person cannot come into your life until you become the right version of yourself. And sometimes God will keep you alone because you are not yet ready for what He has prepared for you. You must grow, you must develop, you must become. And that is why He separates you, so that when the right time comes, you will be ready to handle the blessing instead of losing it because of immaturity. So if you find yourself in a season where you feel alone, do not complain. Do not try to force what God has removed. Do not compromise just to have companionship. Instead, embrace this time as an opportunity to prepare, to build, and to position yourself for what is coming. Because when the time is right, when you have been refined, when you have been made ready, the right person, the one assigned to your destiny, will come. But until then, trust the process, walk in purpose, and embrace the power of separation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear me clearly today. Not everyone can walk with you. Not everyone is meant to go where you are going. Not everyone is assigned to your journey. When God sets you apart for something great, He will not allow just anyone to attach themselves to your life. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to bring everyone along when God has called them to walk a different path. They hold on to relationships, friendships, and connections that are not meant to go the distance. But understand this, when you carry a special calling, there are certain people who will not fit into your destiny. Their presence may be comfortable, their company may feel familiar, but their assignment does not align with yours. And if you force the connection, you will delay your purpose. Look at the life of Abraham. When God called him to a new land, He told him to leave his family, his country, and everything familiar. But what did Abraham do? He brought Lot with him. Lot was not part of the instruction, and because of that, Abraham faced unnecessary conflict. It was not until he and Lot separated that God revealed the full blessing. What does that teach us? Some people in your life are limiting your vision. Some relationships are blocking your blessing. And until you release what God never assigned to you, you will not walk in the fullness of your purpose. Many of you are struggling because you are trying to hold on to people who are only meant for a season. Some connections were never meant to be permanent, but you are trying to force them to stay. When you are chosen, your journey is different. Your mindset is different. Your purpose is different. And because of that, you cannot expect everyone to understand or support you. The truth is, some people are only with you because of where you have been, not where you are going. Jesus Himself experienced this. He had many followers, but only 12 disciples. And even among the 12, He had an inner circle, Peter, James, and John. Why? Because not everyone could handle the depth of His assignment. When He went to the Mount of Transfiguration, He didn't take all 12, only 3. When He went to the Garden of Gethsemane, He didn't bring the crowd, only those who could carry the weight of that moment. Some of you are trying to include people in places they were never meant to be. You are trying to share your vision with those who do not have the capacity to see it, and then you wonder why they do not support you. It is because they were never meant to walk that path with you. You must learn to recognize who is truly aligned with your destiny. Some people are in your life because of convenience, not calling. Some people are connected to you because of what they can get, not because they are assigned to help you grow. And if you are not careful, you will allow the wrong people to stay too long, draining your energy, distracting your focus, and delaying your progress. One of the clearest signs that someone is not meant to walk with you is when their presence causes confusion. Pay attention. When God wants to bless you, He brings the right people into your life. But when the enemy wants to block you, he sends the wrong ones. Some relationships are not divine connections, they are distractions. And the longer you entertain what is not meant for you, the further you move from what is destined for you. This is why isolation is often necessary before elevation. God will remove certain people before He promotes you. He will cut off wrong relationships before He brings the right one. And sometimes He will allow certain people to walk away, not to hurt you, but to make room for something greater. Some people leaving your life is not a loss. It is a blessing in disguise. Do not chase what God is trying to remove. Do not beg for what was never meant to stay. When people walk away, let them go. If someone can leave your life easily, it means they were never truly assigned to your future. The chosen ones walk a different path. They do not rely on human approval. They do not compromise just to fit in. They understand that their destiny is too important to be delayed by unnecessary connections. And because of that, they walk boldly, trusting that God will align them with the right people at the right time for the right purpose. So, if you find yourself alone, if you notice certain people distancing themselves, do not be discouraged. It is not rejection, it is redirection. God is making space for what is truly meant for you. Let go of what is holding you back, embrace the process, and walk confidently in your calling. Because those who are truly meant to walk with you will be assigned by God, not chosen by convenience. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to hear me clearly today. Before God elevates you, He separates you. Separation is not rejection. Separation is not abandonment. Separation is God's way of preparing you for something greater. Many people want to be elevated, but they do not want to go through the process of isolation. They want the blessing, but they resist the breaking. They want to walk in purpose, but they do not want to endure the separation that comes before it. But let me tell you something. Before God takes you to a higher level, He will remove everything and everyone that cannot go with you. Think about it. Before a rocket launches into space, certain parts must detach. The higher it goes, the more it must release. Why? Because what helped it at one level becomes a weight at the next level. Some of you are holding on to people, relationships, and connections that were necessary for your past, but cannot go with you into your future. You are trying to carry unnecessary weight into a new season, and it is slowing you down. That is why God is separating you, because your next level requires a different version of you. Look at the life of Moses. Before he became a deliverer, he was taken away from his people, raised in Pharaoh's house, and later isolated in the wilderness for 40 years. Why? Because before he could lead others, he first had to be separated, trained, and prepared. Some of you are wondering why you feel alone, why certain relationships are breaking apart, why things that once felt secure are now shifting. It is because you are in a process of transformation. And transformation requires separation. Jesus himself showed us this principle. Before he stepped into his ministry, he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness alone. He did not start with crowds. He did not begin with followers. He began in isolation. And in that place, he was tested, refined, and strengthened for what was ahead. If Jesus had to go through separation before elevation, what makes you think you can skip the process? Some of you are fighting what God is trying to do. You are trying to hold on to relationships that no longer serve your purpose. You're trying to fit in with people who do not understand your calling. You are trying to remain in places that no longer align with your destiny. But let me ask you, how can God elevate you when you refuse to release what is keeping you grounded? Separation is a sign that something greater is coming. When God isolates you, it is because he is setting you apart for something different. He is cutting away distractions. He is removing what is not necessary. He is creating space for what is truly meant for you. And sometimes the pain of separation is simply God's way of repositioning you. Think about an eagle. When an eaglet is ready to fly, the mother begins to stir the nest. She removes the soft feathers, making the nest uncomfortable. Why? Because as long as the eaglet is comfortable, it will never leave the nest. It will never stretch its wings. It will never step into what it was created to do. So the discomfort is necessary. The shaking is necessary. The separation is necessary. And the same is true for you. Some of the discomfort you are feeling right now is not the enemy. It is God pushing you out of the familiar and into your destiny. The problem is that many people mistake separation for loneliness. They believe that because they are alone, they are forgotten. But hear me today. Just because you are alone does not mean you are abandoned. God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. And if you embrace this season, instead of resisting it, you will see the hand of God move in your life like never before. Many of you are waiting for the right relationship, the right person to walk with you. But let me tell you something. The right people cannot show up until the wrong ones leave. Some of you are holding on to what is blocking your blessing. You are praying for new connections while refusing to let go of old distractions. But God will not bring the right person into your life while you are still entertaining what is not meant for you. So stop fighting the process. Stop resisting the separation. Stop trying to hold on to what God is pulling away. Trust that He knows what He is doing. Trust that He is preparing you for something better. Because when the time is right, when you have been refined, when you have been made ready, the elevation will come and you will look back and realize that the separation was never about loss. It was about positioning you for something greater. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to hear me today. Wrong connections delay purpose. The people you allow into your life will either push you toward your destiny or pull you away from it. Every relationship, every friendship, every connection is either a stepping stone or a stumbling block. The problem is that too many people are holding on to the wrong relationships, and because of that, they are delaying the very thing they have been praying for. You cannot expect to walk in your purpose while staying connected to people who are not aligned with your destiny. The wrong person will drain your energy, confuse your mind, and slow down your progress. Some of you are wondering why you feel stuck, why you are not moving forward, why your passion and vision seem to be fading. It is because the people around you are not feeding your purpose, they are feeding your distractions. Look at Samson. He was chosen by God, set apart for a great calling, but his downfall was not an enemy army. It was the wrong relationship. Delilah was not part of his destiny, but he allowed her to stay in his life. And because of that, he lost his strength, his vision, and his purpose. Some of you are in relationships that are robbing you of your strength. You are connected to people who do not value your calling, who do not support your growth, who do not encourage your faith. And if you are not careful, you will wake up one day and realize that you have lost your focus because you refused to let go of the wrong connection. The enemy does not always attack with obvious weapons. Sometimes he sends people, he sends distractions in the form of relationships that look good but are not good for you. He sends people who speak the right words but carry the wrong spirit. And if you are not discerning, you will embrace what was meant to entangle you. You must understand, love alone is not enough for alignment. Just because you love someone does not mean they are right for your destiny. Just because someone makes you feel good does not mean they are meant to walk with you. The enemy can use emotions to keep you tied to something that is delaying your assignment. And if you do not have the strength to walk away, you will stay in a place that God has been trying to pull you out of. Some of you are in relationships that keep pulling you back into cycles of confusion. You keep trying to make it work. You keep hoping they will change. You keep ignoring the signs. But deep down, you know this connection is costing you something. Every time you try to focus on your purpose, they become a distraction. Every time you try to grow, they pull you back into habits and mindsets that you have already outgrown. Let me tell you something. The right person will never pull you away from God. The right connection will never require you to compromise your values, your vision, or your faith. The right relationship will strengthen you, push you forward, and help you become the person you were created to be. And if that is not what your connection is doing, then it is a distraction. Look at Abraham and Lot. Abraham was called to a great destiny, but as long as Lot was with him, there was conflict and confusion. The moment they separated, God revealed the full extent of his promise to Abraham. Some of you are waiting for clarity, but clarity will not come until the wrong people leave. Some of you are praying for direction, but direction will not come until you release the relationships that are keeping you in the wrong place. It is time to evaluate your connections. Are the people in your life pushing you toward your purpose or pulling you away from it? Are they helping you grow or are they keeping you in cycles of delay? Some of you need to let go of emotional attachments that are blocking your spiritual progress. You need to stop entertaining relationships that are only keeping you comfortable but are not making you better. You need to understand that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. The truth is, the wrong person will always keep you in the waiting room of your destiny. It will keep you distracted, discouraged, and disconnected from the things that truly matter. And as long as you hold on to what is not meant for you, you will delay what God has already prepared for you. But if you have the courage to walk away from the wrong connection, you will open the door for the right one. If you trust God enough to release what is delaying you, He will align you with what is designed for you. Because the right relationships do not drain you, they develop you. The right connections do not distract you, they position you. And when you surround yourself with the right people, you will step into your purpose faster, stronger, and more focused than ever before. There comes a time when you must recognize that your calling will not allow you to settle for just anything. When God chooses you, He also protects you, sometimes by removing options that would have distracted you. Many people wonder why their romantic relationships do not work out, why connections seem promising but always fall apart, why every time they try to build something, it crumbles before it even fully forms. But what if I told you that some of these failed relationships were not accidents? What if I told you that certain doors did not open because God was shielding you from what would have delayed your destiny? When you are called to something higher, God will not allow you to attach yourself to just anyone. You cannot be bound to a person who does not understand your assignment. You cannot commit to a relationship that will pull you away from purpose. And so what happens? Every time you try to settle, something does not feel right. Every time you try to force a connection, it does not last. That is not rejection. That is divine protection. That is God preserving your purpose. That is Him making sure that you do not attach your destiny to someone who is not aligned with your calling. Look at the story of Joseph. He had a dream, a vision given by God, but notice something. Joseph was isolated. He was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned. There was no romantic connection to comfort him, no partner to walk with him through the process. Why? Because his assignment required complete focus. His journey was not about emotions, it was about preparation. And if Joseph had been distracted by a relationship, he may never have arrived at the palace. Some of you are in a season where God has separated you, and you keep wondering why love is not working out. But maybe, just maybe, God is keeping you free from unnecessary distractions because He needs you to stay focused on what He is building in you. The chosen ones do not have the luxury of ordinary connections. You are set apart. And because of that, you cannot afford to give your heart to just anyone. Your love is not casual, it is purposeful. Your relationships are not random, they are assignments. And until God aligns you with the right person, He will block every wrong one. But here is where many people struggle. They try to force what God is trying to remove. They chase relationships that were never meant to last. They hold on to connections that are draining them, confusing them, pulling them away from the vision God placed inside of them. And then they wonder why they feel lost, why their dreams seem distant, why their fire has dimmed. It is because they have allowed the wrong person to have access to their heart. The enemy does not always attack with obvious destruction. Sometimes he simply sends the wrong people at the right time. He introduces relationships that seem good, that feel exciting, but deep down, they do not push you toward your calling. And if you are not careful, you will mistake chemistry for purpose. You will confuse attraction for destiny. But let me tell you something. The right person will never require you to step outside of your purpose to be with them. The right relationship will never pull you away from God's plan. The right connection will strengthen you, not drain you. This is why discernment is so important. You must learn to recognize when a relationship is a blessing and when it is a distraction. You must be willing to walk away from anything that does not align with what God is doing in your life, because every delay is not the enemy. Sometimes it is God's way of keeping you from something that would have wasted your time. Look at Jesus. He was the most powerful man to walk the earth, but he never pursued romance. Not because love is wrong, but because his assignment was too great. His focus was too sharp. His purpose was too important. Some of you are in a season where God is keeping you single, and instead of being frustrated, you need to recognize the blessing in it. You need to see that he is preserving you, shaping you, preparing you for something greater. Because when the right person comes, they will not distract you from your purpose. They will align with it. They will not pull you away from your calling. They will walk in agreement with it. They will not make you compromise your values. They will strengthen them. But until that time comes, trust God's process. Trust that he is protecting you from what would have hindered you. Trust that he is making you ready for something that is worth the wait. So do not settle. Do not force what is not meant to be. Do not fight what God is removing. Because when the right time comes, when you have been prepared, when your purpose is clear, the right connection will not be a burden. It will be a blessing. And it will be worth every moment of waiting. There comes a time when you must understand that true alignment cannot be forced. No matter how much you desire something, if it is not God's will, it will not last. You may try to make it work, you may pour your time, energy, and emotions into it, but if it is not part of your divine assignment, it will eventually fall apart. And that is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of protection. Many people struggle with this reality because they're emotionally attached to things and people that were never meant to be permanent. They invest in relationships that were only meant to be lessons. They try to build foundations in places that were only meant to be temporary. And when these connections do not work, they experience heartbreak, confusion, and frustration. But hear me today. When something is not aligned with your destiny, no amount of effort will make it right. You must recognize when God is closing a door. You must have the wisdom to see when a relationship is out of season. Because if you are not careful, you will waste years of your life trying to hold on to something that God is trying to remove. Some of you are praying for clarity, but God has already given you the answer. The relationship is draining you. The connection is full of confusion. You have lost your peace. You have lost your focus. You are constantly questioning whether this is right for you. That is not alignment. That is a sign that you are forcing something that was never meant to be. Look at Jonah. God had a specific assignment for him, but Jonah tried to run in the opposite direction. And what happened? Everything around him became chaotic. The storm came. The ship he was on could not move forward. The people connected to him were affected. Why? Because he was out of alignment with God's will. Some of you are facing unnecessary storms in your life, not because you are under attack, but because you are holding on to something that God has told you to let go of. And as long as you refuse to release it, things will not settle. The problem is that many people confuse attachment with purpose. They think that just because they have history with someone, they are supposed to have a future with them. But just because someone was a part of your past does not mean they are assigned to your future. Some people were only meant to be in your life for a season. And when their time is up, you must be willing to let them go. Look at Abraham. He had a nephew, Lot, who traveled with him. But at a certain point, there was conflict, and they had to separate. And as soon as Lot left, God gave Abraham the full revelation of his promise. Some of you are wondering why you have not received clarity about your next step. But clarity cannot come while you are still holding on to the wrong connections. Some blessings will only come after obedience. Some doors will only open when you release what is blocking them. You cannot force alignment. If you have to constantly convince someone to see your value, they are not assigned to you. If you have to lower your standards, compromise your faith, or shrink yourself to keep a connection, that relationship is not from God. The right person will recognize your worth without you having to prove it. The right connection will flow naturally because it is divinely orchestrated. Some of you are afraid of being alone, so you hold on to relationships that no longer serve you. But let me tell you something. Loneliness is not as costly as wasted time. It is better to walk alone in purpose than to walk with the wrong person in distraction. Many people delay their destiny because they refuse to release attachments that are keeping them stuck. They pray for a breakthrough, but they are not willing to make room for what God wants to do. You must learn to trust the signs. When something is not meant for you, God will give you warnings. You will feel uneasy. You will see red flags. You will experience resistance. But it is up to you to listen. Some of you keep asking for confirmation, but God has already shown you the truth. And now you have a choice. Do you continue to force what is not working? Or do you trust God enough to let go and move forward? The right alignment will bring peace, not confusion. The right connection will bring clarity, not anxiety. When something is truly from God, it will not require you to beg, to chase, or to lose yourself in the process. It will flow because it was designed to fit into your life. So, if you find yourself constantly struggling to make something work, take a step back and ask yourself, is this truly aligned with God's plan for me? Because if it is not, no matter how much you fight for it, it will never bring you the fulfillment you are looking for. True purpose cannot be forced. True alignment will never require you to compromise who you are. And when you finally release what is not meant for you, you will find that what is truly yours has been waiting for you all along. There comes a time when you must understand that isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. And preparation, when God sets you apart, it is never to harm you, never to deprive you, but to refine you for something greater. And one of the greatest struggles of those who are chosen is learning to be content in the space between where they were and where they are going. It is in this space that many begin to doubt, to question, to wonder why their journey seems lonelier than others. They see others forming connections, building relationships, and yet for them, every time they attempt to attach themselves to someone, the relationship does not work, the connection does not last, and the door closes before it even fully opens. But hear me today, when you are chosen, your process is different. Your journey will not look like everyone else's because your assignment is not like everyone else's. The people you see forming relationships so easily may not be called to what you are called to. The connections that seem to work for others may not be aligned with the weight of your destiny. And because of that, God will not allow you to settle where others can. He will not allow you to form attachments that would weaken you. He will not allow you to be entangled in relationships that would distract you from your purpose. Some of you feel like you are constantly losing people. You meet someone, you think it could be something special, and then suddenly something happens and it does not work out. You try to build a relationship, but something feels off. You wonder why every time you try to settle, something disrupts it. But let me tell you something. Every disconnection is divine protection. Every closed door is God shielding you from what would have delayed you. You may not see it now, but when you look back, you will understand why those connections had to end. Look at Moses. He was raised in Pharaoh's house, but he never belonged there. He was surrounded by luxury, yet he was not allowed to attach himself to it. And when the time came, God pulled him out, took him into the wilderness, and kept him in isolation. Not because he was punishing him, but because he was preparing him. Some of you are in a season where God has pulled you away from certain people, certain relationships, and certain environments. You feel alone, but you are not abandoned. You feel forgotten, but you are being preserved. God is keeping you from distractions because he needs your focus. When you are chosen, your love life is not based on emotions. It is based on assignment. You do not just need a partner, you need alignment. You do not just need a relationship, you need destiny. And because of that, God will not let you build with the wrong person. He will not let you settle in something that does not match the weight of your calling. If you ever find yourself questioning why something did not work, stop asking, why did I lose it? And start asking, what was God protecting me from? Because some things look good on the surface, but carry burdens you cannot afford to carry. Look at Jesus. He had crowds following him, disciples walking with him, people celebrating him. But when it came time for his greatest moment of purpose, he was alone. In Gethsemane, he prayed by himself. On the cross, he carried the weight by himself. Because purpose requires seasons of separation. And if the Son of God had to walk through isolation to fulfill his destiny, why do you think your path will be any different? Some of you need to shift your perspective. You have been looking at isolation as rejection, but it is actually selection. God has selected you for something greater, and because of that, he has been protecting you from unnecessary entanglements. He has been keeping you from settling. He has been preserving you for the right time, the right season, and the right person. And when that time comes, when you are fully prepared, when your foundation is strong, what is meant for you will not miss you. So do not rush the process. Do not force what is not flowing. Do not chase what God is trying to remove. Trust that every delay has a purpose. Trust that every closed door is leading you to something better. And when the time is right, when you have become everything you are meant to be, what is meant for you will find you. And when it does, it will not be a distraction, it will not be a burden, it will be a blessing. As you walk this path, remember that isolation is not abandonment, it is preparation. You are not alone. You are being set apart. Every closed door, every failed relationship, every moment of waiting has been orchestrated for your good. Do not mistake divine protection for rejection. Do not allow impatience to make you settle for something beneath your calling. What God has for you is worth the wait. And when the time is right, the right connection will come. Not as a distraction, but as a confirmation of everything he has been preparing you for. So stand firm in your season. Embrace the process. Trust that what is meant for you will not pass you by. And when it finally arrives, you will realize that every moment of isolation was shaping you for the blessing ahead. Good luck on your journey. Stay strong in faith, and may your purpose always guide your steps. Thank you.